The hot water stung Nathan Brooks' hands as he scrubbed the last of the grease from a blackened frying pan. Steam rose around his face. The smell of burnt oil clung to the old apron tied around his waist. Outside the small kitchen window, the quiet streets of Maple Ridge, Pennsylvania, sat still under a cold November sky. Inside Clara's Corner diner, no one looked twice at the quiet man standing at the sink. 6 months earlier, private jets had waited for him. Magazine covers had carried his face. His signature had moved hundreds of millions of dollars with a single stroke. Tonight his only job was making sure every plate was clean before closing time. No one in that diner knew his real name. No one knew that in one brutal week he had lost $1 billion company, his reputation, and the woman he once planned to marry. His closest friend had set the trap. The woman he loved had stood in front of television cameras, slipped off her engagement ring, and told the world she had never really known him at all. Those words cut deeper than the loss of the money. So he had driven until the city lights disappeared, until his car finally stopped on the edge of a forgotten little town. A kind woman had offered him a free meal without asking his name. She thought she was helping a broke stranger. She had no idea she was about to change the life of a man who had lost everything except the will to start over. This is a story about the people who see you when the world turns away, the quiet strength that refuses to break, and the day the truth finally walked through the front door of a small-town diner. If stories like this move you, take a second to subscribe. The twist at the end will stay with you. Now let's begin. Nathan Brooks had built Brooks Transport from nothing. He started with 2 used trucks and a borrowed warehouse outside Pittsburgh. 15 years of long nights and hard choices turned it into one of the largest shipping companies on the East Coast. He never forgot where he came from. He still greeted the night shift drivers by name. He still remembered the birthdays of the people most executives never noticed. The man he trusted most was Victor Lang. They had met in college with empty pockets and big dreams. When the company took off, Nathan made Victor his chief financial officer without a second thought. "If I ever have to choose between money and loyalty," Nathan once said in an interview, "I'll choose loyalty every time." Victor had smiled when he heard those words. No one noticed the smile never reached his eyes. At home, Nathan believed he had found happiness too. Elena Voss was elegant, polished, and always ready for the cameras. The papers called them a perfect match. Their wedding was 4 months away. The invitations had already been printed. Nathan had no idea that the 2 people he trusted most were already planning to take everything he had built. Late one night, while Nathan was downstairs talking with a warehouse worker whose son needed help with college applications, Victor sat alone in his office moving money through a maze of hidden accounts. Forged signatures, fake invoices. Every trail carefully pointed toward Nathan Brooks. By the time the board opened the thick folder of evidence, the trap was complete. Security met Nathan at the elevator the next Monday morning. The directors sat in silence. Victor wore a look of carefully practiced sorrow. The chairman pushed the folder across the table. Unauthorized transfers totaling $42 million. All under Nathan's name. Nathan's oldest friend did not defend him. He helped bury him. By afternoon, the headlines screamed across every screen. Billionaire CEO under investigation for fraud. Elena Voss stood in front of a wall of cameras outside a luxury hotel, eyes lowered, voice soft with practiced pain. "I don't think I ever really knew the man I agreed to marry." She slipped the diamond ring from her finger and placed it in a reporter's hand. Nathan watched the broadcast from his car. Something inside him broke quietly. He turned off the phone, started the engine, and drove. He drove until the city was gone, until the fuel light came on, until the car rolled to a stop beside a faded wooden sign that read "Welcome to Maple Ridge." The rain had stopped by the time he walked into town. Warm light spilled from the windows of a small diner on the corner. The sign above the door simply said Clara's Corner. A tiny bell rang when he pushed the door open. Conversations continued without pause. No one recognized him. No one whispered his name. Behind the counter stood a woman with kind eyes and a tired but genuine smile. Clara Hayes looked up from the coffee pot. "Evening. Sit anywhere you like." Nathan ordered a sandwich and coffee. When the card machine declined twice, his face burned with embarrassment. "I'm sorry. There must be a problem with the bank." Clara slid the card back across the counter. "It's all right. You don't owe me anything." He stared at her. "You don't even know me." She smiled. "I know you're hungry. Around here, that's enough. Those simple words hit him harder than any boardroom accusation. For the first time in weeks, someone wanted nothing from him at all. That same night, the cook quit in a storm of shouted curses and a thrown apron. Clara stood in the kitchen looking at the mountain of dishes and the empty order tickets. Nathan, still sitting at the counter, quietly stood up. "I can wash dishes," he said, "if you'll have me." Clara studied him for a long moment. Then she handed him an apron. $9 an hour. We open at 6. He never told her his real name. He simply worked. He arrived early. He stayed late. He scrubbed pans until his hands cracked. He learned every regular's coffee order. He fixed the sticky cash register drawer. And every night after closing, he wound the small silver pocket watch his grandfather had left him and placed it carefully on the shelf above the sink. Clara never asked questions. She simply smiled when he fixed things without being asked and left an extra sandwich for him at the end of long shifts. The diner was struggling. The roof leaked. The bank had sent 2 letters about the loan. Clara worked double shifts and still came in the next morning with the same quiet determination. Nathan watched her and felt something he had not felt in a long time. Respect that had nothing to do with money. Then the past found him. Victor Lang and Elena Voss arrived on a gray Thursday afternoon in a black sedan that looked ridiculous parked outside the little diner. Victor stepped inside first, expensive coat still on, eyes scanning the room until they landed on the man at the sink. Elena followed, heels clicking on the worn linoleum. The bell above the door rang. Conversations died. Victor smiled the same polished smile he had worn in boardrooms. "Nathan, we've been looking for you." Clara froze with a coffee pot in her hand. Nathan slowly dried his hands on a towel and turned. "You drove a long way," he said quietly. Victor's smile tightened. "The board wants this finished. Sign over your remaining shares, and everyone can move on." Elena's voice was softer, almost gentle. "You don't belong here, Nathan. Look at yourself. You're washing dishes in a place like this." A few customers shifted uncomfortably. Clara set the coffee pot down and stepped forward. "This is my diner. If you have something to say to my employee, you can say it outside." Elena's eyes flicked over Clara with quiet disdain. "And who exactly are you?" Clara met her gaze without flinching. "I'm the woman who gave him a meal when the rest of the world threw him away." The diner went completely silent. Nathan felt something warm settle in his chest. He reached into the pocket of his apron and pulled out a small black flash drive. He placed it on the counter between them. Victor's smile vanished. "Do you know what this is?" Nathan asked. His voice stayed calm. 2 years of every transfer, every forged approval, every hidden account. The kind of records nobody thought to check while they were busy destroying my name. Victor's face drained of color. "You're bluffing. I already sent copies to a forensic accountant and 2 board members this morning," Nathan said. "They should be reading them right about now." Elena turned to Victor, confusion and sudden fear mixing on her face. "What is he talking about?" Nathan looked at her with quiet finality. "The man you believed without question spent 2 years stealing from the company and making sure every trail pointed to me." No one in the diner moved. Outside, a television news van that had followed the black sedan was already setting up cameras across the street. If this story is touching your heart, take a moment to like this video and tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? Stories like this only reach the people who need them when you share them. The next morning, the truth moved faster than any headline ever had. The forensic report left no room for doubt. Victor Lang was suspended before the stock market opened. Security escorted him from the building while the same directors who had once turned their backs on Nathan now sat in stunned silence. Within hours, every major network changed its story. The man accused of fraud had been cleared. The real thief had finally been exposed. Elena's carefully built world began to crack the same day. Sponsors quietly ended contracts. Magazine covers were pulled. The public that had once praised her elegance now remembered how quickly she had abandoned the man she claimed to love. Back in Maple Ridge, Nathan knew almost none of it yet. He was rinsing coffee cups when Clara walked over holding her phone. She looked at the screen, then at him. "They know the truth," she said softly. Nathan dried his hands and looked around the little diner. The smell of fresh coffee, the regulars laughing over breakfast, the place that had given him a chance when he had nothing left. For the first time in months, he smiled without effort. A black sedan returned the next morning. Elena stepped out alone. The expensive confidence was gone. Dark circles sat under her eyes. She placed the engagement ring on the counter with trembling fingers. I made a mistake, she whispered. I listened to everyone except the one person I should have believed. I'm sorry. Nathan looked at the ring for a long moment, then gently pushed it back toward her. The woman I loved believed the headlines before she believed me, he said. His voice stayed steady. But the woman standing over there believed in me before she even knew my name. He glanced at Clara, who stood quietly near the coffee machine. Then he looked back at Elena. I don't hate you. I truly hope you find peace. But my future isn't behind me anymore. It's right here. Elena picked up the ring, turned, and walked out. The little bell above the door rang softly as it closed behind her. Months later, the board of Brooks Transport asked Nathan to return as chief executive. He accepted on one condition. He would divide his time between the company and Maple Ridge. Before the bank could take any further steps against the diner, he quietly paid every outstanding loan. Then he placed the deed in Clara's hands. She stared at the papers. You can't just solve everything with money. Nathan smiled. I'm not trying to buy the diner. I'm protecting the place that saved my life. One quiet morning before opening, he walked into the kitchen wearing the same old apron. He picked up a single coffee cup and washed it the way he had on his first day. Clara leaned in the doorway watching him.